All right, so let's talk about managing fixed assets in QuickBooks. I'm going to specifically show you how to use the fixed asset list and the fixed asset manager in QuickBooks Accountant Edition or QuickBooks Enterprise Edition. So if you're working with QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Mac, QuickBooks Pro or QuickBooks Premier, none of those four are going to be eligible for this function. This is only available in, as I mentioned, in accountant or enterprise. So first, let's talk about sort of the traditional way that we manage fixed assets, quote unquote. So right now I'm going to go into company financial balance sheet and I'm going to see what we have on our balance sheet in terms of assets. So as you can see, right now we have an account called computer and office equipment, which is $2,500. If I double click on that, I actually get to see the exact transaction that cost that $2,500 to happen, which basically was a check, which it could also be a bill. But the key thing is, traditionally, when you book the asset, you book it at the purchase. So if it's a check or a bill, you book it, and then they pick an asset, a fixed asset, whether there's already a general category like computer and office, automobile, or office equipment, something like that, or you create an asset account for each account. So for example, if this was an equipment that we wanted to label it specifically, we can just add new and click on fixed assets, hit continue, and then we can call this one the Dell server, for example, and then hit save and close, and that would certainly book that particular transaction into the balance sheet. You will see it there clearly. And again, this is not what I want to show you yet. That's an alternative. We'll discuss the alternative in a second. Right now, I just want to show you how we traditionally do it. And then when the depreciation is actually booked, somebody actually literally goes into QuickBooks and creates a journal entry per month, per quarter, per year, and books depreciation expense and accumulated depreciation. Now, the problem is that coming up with this number would require you to have a special spreadsheet, because QuickBooks, the core software, doesn't have a depreciation calculator. You're going to have to use a different tool, which is the reason why I mentioned enterprise or accountant, because it comes with enterprise and accountant to actually calculate and manage those. So we'll discuss those in a minute. So what I want to offer as an alternative to just booking the depreciation through manual journal entries is to use something called the Fixed Asset Manager. Now, the Fixed Asset Manager can be accessed by clicking on Company and then Manage Fixed Assets. If you're working with the Accountant Edition, you can click on Accountant, Manage Fixed Assets. It would actually be the exact same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and that's going to launch the Fixed Asset Manager. Now, the first time you launch it, it'll ask you a whole bunch of questions, which you just read and answer through. I already had done that. I already used it in my computer, so it just opens straight into the software. Now, as of right now, this asset manager is connected to my QuickBooks file. You can see up here with the company name. Let me go ahead and maximize this. So this one is called Engineering and Architecture Firm. If I open my QuickBooks file, you see up here that it's called Engineering and Architecture Firm. So that's how you know which file you're working with. Now, if you already went through the questionnaire, the questions that you had, it can be changed here under File, Client Information. If you actually click on that, you get to choose which is a depreciation period. You get to use how many different calculation methods you would like to use. So for example, you get a total, in this particular case, you get a total of 6 options. You get the default, which is the federal. This is the tax option. And then you get the 2 side calculations, which is ACE and AMT. These are also tax related. And then the ones that most people really worry about is having an accounting method depreciation, and also possibly having an alternative to state taxation and maybe local taxation. So you get to pick how many different depreciation tables you would like to work simultaneously, and the Fixed Asset Manager will calculate the depreciation, the book value, the accumulated depreciation, the salvage value individually in each of these 6 methods. So I can actually pick and choose to see how many I want to manage. So I just put a checkbox on the ones that I want to manage, and that's it. Now here where it says methods, this is basically where we pick the default methods that the assets are going to have once we start creating them. Here where it says groupings, we can actually group these together in the items in a very specific way. We can give them tax ID, item IDs. This is really more important when we're integrating with our tax software. So for now, let's just skip this whole groupings tab. And then here on account, this is where you see the chart of accounts that basically reflects the same chart of accounts as your QuickBooks file. So if I click on list chart of accounts, the same chart of accounts that I'm looking at here should match the chart of accounts in here. So it's just basically a quick way for you to kind of just see the general settings off of it. So we'll get a lot deeper into how this works in a second. But let me go ahead and click OK. Now you're going to see that we have a couple of tabs here. We have schedule, we have asset, we have disposal, we have projection, we have notes, and we have calendar. So schedule is gonna be the list of all the assets, which right now there is none, and I'll explain to you in a second. Asset is gonna be asset by asset, where we actually configure the depreciation methods that we're gonna use, the convention, the useful life, the salvage value. All those things are gonna be entered in here, but we're gonna start the process from QuickBooks. So I'm gonna show you exactly how that works. In disposal, this is where we're gonna track the assets that we sold. So this software will actually let you know what the actual profit or gain on the asset is, including the calculation of depreciation, which is really, really important, especially for tax. And then projection will basically project depreciation for the future. Anyway, so the reason why there's no assets here, there's a blank one here. Let me go ahead and delete it. There's no assets here is because we haven't set up any assets in QuickBooks. So let me go back into QuickBooks here. And yes, we do have a fixed asset account called Dell Server. However, this doesn't transfer or translate over to Fixed Asset Manager because it needs to be part of the fixed asset list. So the fixed asset list is up here. We're going to click on list and we're going to click on fixed asset item list. So that's a really important piece. You have to work with the list as well as the chart of accounts. You have to work with both for the fixed asset manager to work. So list fixed asset manager, and for now the list is blank. So the list is blank because we haven't actually created our fixed asset items. Now that's a really important concept. We're going to have fixed asset items, and we're also going to have fixed asset accounts. And the accounts, which are going to be the ones that are in the chart of accounts, are going to play a pivotal role in the presentation of our financial statements, of course. However, the list is going to be used for it to create the individual depreciation tables for each specific item. So in here, in the fixed asset item list, again, we go to the list menu and click on fixed asset. We're going to right click anywhere in the blank screen and then click new. And then we're going to proceed to create our fixed assets. So for example, we'll do the Dell server that was there in the books earlier. And then we're going to put here a date. Let's say we put this in service July 1st, 2016. We'll go ahead and put the cost. You have to put a description. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the item name to the description. However, we could, if I wanted to, have a complete separate description. And then there's a couple of separate boxes here like location, notes, PO number, serial number. You know, these are things that I can add, or I don't have to add if I don't want to, but you have space to add information there. Now I can't hit OK yet because I have to select an asset account. So it's completely necessary that I tell it which chart of accounts account this item is linked to. So in this particular case, I'm going to link it to the Dell server account that we had created earlier because this actually makes sense, right? So I have the item and then I have the account, and both of these things match. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And there's my first asset. Now let me go ahead and create a new one. Let me go to new, and then I'm going to create a vehicle. So I'm going to call it here Toyota truck, and I'll go ahead and copy and paste that description. in the bottom, I'm gonna go ahead and put when I bought it. So let's say this was February 15th, 16, and the cost of this one was 23,600. Again, I'm gonna have to select that asset account that it goes to, but I'm not gonna select that individual asset. I'm gonna go ahead and click on automobile and trucks, and I'll click OK. Perfect. So now I got two assets that I purchased, and there's no limit on how many I can have there. If I click down here where it says reports and I click on fixed asset listing, I go to a special report where I have all my fixed assets, and I can actually pick and choose what columns and what fields I can see in there, and we're going to get to that a little bit later on. So let me go ahead and hit escape there to close that, and let's go into our fixed asset manager. So let me go to account, manage fixed assets. That's going to go ahead and launch my fixed asset manager. Now, this is not programmed to automatically sync with QuickBooks Desktop and bring the information. I'm going to go ahead and click on QuickBooks menu up here at the top. I'm going to click on QuickBooks, and then I'm going to click on update assets from QuickBooks. So once I click that, it's going to ask me, do you only want to bring new ones? Do you want to bring the modified ones? Do you want to bring both of the modified ones? So I'll just pick the first one, and then I hit OK. And then what this software will do, and again, this fixed asset manager is free. It's included with QuickBooks Accountant and QuickBooks Enterprise. So it works hand in hand. But it will do is it will connect to QuickBooks, and it will bring those assets over. So you can see both assets in there. If I click on asset, I can actually put any specific details that I want. So for example, for the Dell server, notice that the serial number that I put is there. I can choose, to put additional information in here. But one really important piece, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit, or I'm just going to bring the screen down. It's the general asset ledger account. This is not going to work if I don't map it. Okay, so you notice that I already mapped it to my fixed asset account, but I also need to map my accumulated depreciation and my depreciation expense. So most companies will have a single accumulated depreciations account, and they will have a single depreciation expense account. Now, if you want to have multiple depreciation expense accounts and subcategorize them by asset class or whatever, you can do that. If you want to have an accumulated depreciation account per asset, you can do that as well. Or you can actually even pick the same Dell server fixed asset as my accumulated depreciation account, because it's just gonna lower its book value. So it really works any way you want to. I mean, there's some really important sort of accounting concepts that you need to know and understand before doing that booking. But if you follow the specific instructions I put here, you really don't have to know that much more. So just pick the fixed asset, pick, actually this is supposed to be accumulated depreciation and depreciation expense. And there's a couple other things when it comes to grouping, so we can group them together. This is more for reporting purposes. If I have really big asset lists, maybe I want to group them in any specific way. Now let's go down here to the bottom. This is really the meat and potatoes of the software here, which is, we have 3 different methods for depreciation, and each method could have a whole different set of information. So for example, for whatever reason, let's say that for federal purposes, we need to pick a different date than book purposes or state purposes, then I'm welcome to change that. Now the cost basis really doesn't change most of the times across different methods, but if you must have one, then you can change it there as well. Now this is the really important piece, depreciation method. Depreciation method, and don't want to get too much deep into the different depreciation methods. I have another video in the earlier session which we talked about the different depreciation methods, but this is where you can actually pick what method they are going to have. So for example, something very, very common in the tax world is you're going to have this thing called 200% double declining balance. That's just a type of depreciation. And then on the book world, in the non-tax world, on just regular financial statements, it is very common to have straight line. So I just want to kind of just compare these two, the double declining and the straight line, and you're going to see each of these are going to have their own method. Okay. Now, the recovery period. Now, let's say, for example, that for federal tax purposes, a server lasts 5 years, but for book purposes, it lasts 3 years. Then I just change this to 3. And then this is months, by the way. So if you wanted to do like 2 years and 6 months, 2.5 years, you would put 2, 6. And then we'll ignore estate for a second. Let's just kind of focus on book versus tax, because that's kind of really the hot topic, is comparing books versus tax. So let's say, for example, that the convention that this asset for tax that it had was mid-quarter, because it just happened to be that way, and don't want to get into the details of that. And let's say that for book purposes, it's going to be actual days or full month, which is going to give you the same result because they're both on July 1st. But let's also say that for tax purposes, we are going to have a special deduction. For example, we're going to have on the federal, we're going to have a special bonus of, let's say, 50% of the asset. Okay, so that's a special tax rule that allows you to take 50% of the asset. So you see right here, it's going to immediately depreciate $1,250, which is half of the asset. And then down here in the bottom, I get to pick the business use percentage. So let's say, for example, that for tax purposes, we're going to say that this is 100% business. However, when you deal with vehicles and stuff, sometimes if they're mixed use, you actually have to put a percentage there. But the most typical thing, it's going to be 100%. Now, salvage value, which is up here, is normally ignored on the tax world, but you have to put some sort of salvage value for the book world or for the standard accounting world. So we're going to go ahead and put a salvage value, which is how much we think this computer is going to be worth at the end of 3 years. Let's say that we think it's going to be worth about $600. So what this will do is it will now only depreciate $1,900 from the book and do that in straight line for 3 years. And then for federal, it will do the full $2,500. It's going to take 50% up front, and then it's going to do the rest in 200% double declining. Now, I don't want to get too much into the weeds in terms of what methods you have to use and how do you know. I mean, you may need some formal accounting training for that, or you can go into the IRS website and pull up publication, I believe is 945, which explains everything about fixed assets and depreciation. Anyway, we get to see right here what the current depreciation is going to be, which is 187 in this case, plus the special allowance, and in this case it will be 316 for book. Now, why is this significant? Let me go ahead and save this, and let's pull a report. This is significant because of reporting, because the only reason why we would do this and spend all this time managing the fixed assets is because we want to have nice reports explaining to us exactly what's going on. So let me go ahead and go to display reports, and then I'm going to go down to depreciation schedule by user defined 1. And by the way, you basically get 5 predefined depreciation schedules. So I'll just pick one. It really doesn't matter. Anything that says depreciation schedule on it, even depreciation schedule by GL, that stuff works too. Any of these work. So let me go ahead and do the federal first. So you notice down here, you get to pick which report you want to see. So I want to do federal or book, and we'll compare those two in a second. And then let me go ahead and hit OK. And let's take a look at this report. So this report tells me that my Toyota truck, which is actually automatically is posting some depreciation, even though I didn't change any of the settings. These are based on the default settings. It's showing you there. However, the Dell server, which is the one that we spent quite some time putting together, is telling me exactly what's going to be depreciated the first year, which is 1,437.50. Let me go ahead and get out of there. Let's go back to schedule, and let's work now with the truck. So let me go ahead and double click on the truck, and let's say if like I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to add some additional comments, you can do that there, additional description, that sort of thing. But we have to do the mapping, really important. So we're going to do accumulated depreciation account. We can pick the accumulated depreciation general account, and for the depreciation account, again, this is going to be the most typical. We're just going to have one depreciation expense account. There we go. Okay, and then down here, let's say for book purposes, a vehicle will last 7 years, and I'm not telling you that's the general rule or anything. I'm just saying let's just say that's how it works. We're gonna make this truck worth 7 years, but for tax purposes we're gonna do 5 years. And then we can also say for book purposes we're gonna use let's just do it again. We'll do a straight line, and then for federal basis we'll go ahead and pick the same one here, 200% double declining. However, we won't take an initial bonus on it, so we'll just do straight depreciation on that. And we're gonna put here that this is 75% business use. So what this will do is you watch right here where it says depreciation. This is gonna go down by 25% because there's a portion of it that is personal use. So it's really neat here. For tax purposes, we're gonna go ahead and say that it's a percentage of personal use, but let's say for book purposes, we're gonna keep it at 100%. So what is really nice, it creates multiple depreciation schedules. And let me go ahead and now pull the report, go to display report, and then I'll pick a different one. I'll pick this one called depreciation schedule by GL account, and you're gonna see what that looks like. So there you go. You're gonna get to see what the current depreciation now, which is based on the new settings, is gonna be an entirely different number. Okay. Now we get to pick when we do the report. So let me do report again and display report. We get to pick if I wanted to see my federal schedule or my book schedule, right? So that's a really important piece. So let me go ahead and pick now book and hit okay. Actually, I picked the wrong report. Sorry about that. Reports, display report, book, and then we'll go down to depreciation schedule by GL account number. And now you see entirely different numbers are being booked here. So this is interesting, and as you start kind of playing with it and adding more assets and changing the conventions and the recovery period or the useful life, you get to see how all these depreciations get calculated differently. Now right here where it says projection, this is awesome. Where it says projection, this software would actually tell you what the future depreciation schedules are going to be for this asset, and you kind of get to see exactly how this will play into the future. Now if I do a report for that, so let me go to report, display reports, and then I'm going to look for the report where I can see my complete depreciation schedule. So let's go ahead and pick this one, and then I'll go to federal and then hit OK. You get to see, like I said, current year. Now let's say for example that now I'm done with this year and then I want to see the next year. So I can go to file, client information, and then I can just simply change the year here. So let me go ahead and put 2017 and then hit OK. And what's going to happen is it's going to recalculate, and then we go into reports, display report, and then I'm going to scroll down and take a look at depreciation schedule by user defined one, or I can also pick by GL account. Either one works. And I pick depreciation through, so I can do it through the end of the year, and then I can hit OK. And then I get an entirely different depreciation amount, because that's going to be the depreciation for the next year, right? Because I changed the depreciation cycle. Now, you don't have to do this per year. You can actually do them even in monthly increments. So for example, let me go back here to client information, and let's say we were going to do from July 1st, so July 1st, 2016 through July 31st of 2016. So we're looking at just a month's worth, okay? And then once I have this loaded up, I can go to reports, and this is obviously the same thing over and over, display reports, and then I can pick my report, and then I can do depreciation through 07/31/2016, and then hit OK. And you see actually a whole different depreciation schedule, because that's going to be the first month basically, and you get the bonus right away, and then you get a smaller amount. So this kind of just starts giving you an idea of how that works. And even when you do that report, you can actually, instead of just putting the date, I can just say, look, give me the depreciation of month 8 or month 7 or whatever, and that will work as well. So this utility is just really, really powerful, and you have a lot of different choices. You can also pick and choose which assets you want to see. So if I only wanted to see the asset that I selected, I'm going to go ahead and get a report just for that particular asset. Okay, so that's building the assets, changing some of the settings, building the reports, and kind of just getting acquainted with that. There's a couple of other interesting features here. So here where it says Asset Tools, we get a couple of really interesting tools that you can do. For example, I can actually take one asset and go to dispose, and then I can say, look, I'm going to go ahead and sell this, and then once you put the sales price, whatever the sales price happens to be, let's say I'm going to put here 14,000. Fixed Asset Manager is going to calculate exactly what my gain and loss on the property is, even after calculating depreciation. So that's really neat about disposal. Okay, here where it says Asset Tools, you can also do some interesting things like split off an asset. So for example, let's say an asset kind of gets converted into something else. You can actually grab one asset and kind of split it into two. So it's kind of really interesting, or 2 or 3. You can convert one asset into multiple assets, keep the history up to the split portion, and then in the future you have two entirely different assets that can have their own depreciation schedules even. Now let me go into File, Client Information, and let me do the entire year again, because that's kind of the common thing that we do is we do this per year. And then I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to go here into reports, and I'm going to show you display tax worksheet. So what this does is this actually creates the tax form for you, or the worksheet that you need for the tax form. Okay, it's really, really cool. So when you hit OK here, you get the tax form. It tells you exactly which line on the tax return it goes into. And if you already are a tax preparer, or you have an accountant for this, then you don't have to worry too much. But it's actually really nice to know that those tools are all available within the Fixed Asset Manager. Now, the most valuable piece of the Fixed Asset Manager, it's saving the time of not having to come in here and create the journal entries. This is the real big deal here, of not having to do the journal entries by hand. So going back to the Fixed Asset Manager, this is where it becomes really useful. So I'm going to go ahead and click on QuickBooks, and then I'm going to click on where it says Post Journal Entry into QuickBooks. Now before that, I always recommend clicking on Save Assets to QuickBooks, just in case you had some additional notes and attributes to the asset itself, and you want to bring that information over to QuickBooks as well. That way, when I go into my fixed asset item list here, I can go into any of these and I can see new information. Like for example, you see here where it says Fixed Asset Manager, asset number 1, accumulated depreciation. It actually brings that information over and stores it in the fixed asset list inside QuickBooks. So that's the valuable piece of bringing the information back into QuickBooks. Anyway, to create that journal entry, we're going to click on QuickBooks, Post Journal Entry to QuickBooks. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then it tells me, well, when would you like to post a journal entry? So I'm going to put here 12/31/2016. Hit tab, and then the system will kind of calculate my debits and my credit entry. If I actually click on Show Assets, we can see them broken down by asset there, so you can see them broken down. Now they don't come in, they don't get posted individually like that. They'll just be one overall journal entry, just for the 38, in this case for the 380750 debit and the credit as well. Now I can choose whether I want to post the tax depreciation, or I want to post the book depreciation. Now you can't change it back and forth, and you really shouldn't be changing it back and forth, by the way. So if you start with just posting book, you're going to post book forever. If you're going to be posting federal, you're going to be posting federal forever, but it's really important. And it even gives you a warning, right, when I made that change, that you shouldn't really be changing methods back and forth. So let me go ahead and click on post entry to QuickBooks. And what you're going to see, basically, it's a journal entry be posted into QuickBooks. Now, if I go to QuickBooks and I click on display journal entry list, I get basically a log of all the journal entries that I have posted through the Fixed Asset Manager. So right here, this is the journal entry that I posted. It tells you the date, it tells you when it was done, what date, what time, it tells you what the journal entry is, and even if it has a journal entry number. But let's go into QuickBooks and see what that looks like. Okay, so see how the accumulated depreciation now, it's a bigger number, 4653.62. I'm going to go ahead and double click that, and I'm going to double click on the actual entry, and we see that the journal entry was entered automatically. Now, a really important piece, that one asset that I created, which is, and this is extremely important, this asset that I created, the Toyota truck, I haven't really entered the accounting event. That's really important. Even though I created the fixed asset, you still have to create the actual transaction. So if let's say for example, I bought that truck and maybe I bought it with some financing, I have to actually enter the transaction itself. So when I actually paid, let's say for example, a down payment, I have to do that in QuickBooks and I have to use that particular item. So let me go ahead and go into the check here, and then I'll put here that I paid Toyota. So I'll create the vendor here called Toyota, and let's say for example that I paid Toyota, I think it was February 10th 2016, and I paid Toyota, let's say 2,500, but the actual amount of the item that I purchased was 2360. So when I actually click on items, not expenses but items, and I hit my drop down, I can actually go into my fixed assets that are here. I can select my Toyota truck. That information about the purchase will come in automatically because I already kind of did my homework by putting it on the fixed asset list. And then because I only paid 2,500, then maybe I can book the difference to a loan, right? So I can put here auto loan or something like that, book the difference to loan. And this is kind of a tricky entry. So if you've never kind of seen this before, sorry about the trickiness behind it, but let's assume for a second you were buying the truck cash and then you would just have the same 2360 up here, but I'm just kind of showing you how it will work with a down payment. Anyway, so you still have to book the accounting event. Putting it on the fixed asset list is not enough. So you still have to book that initial purchase there. The fixed asset list, what it will do is just help you or aid you through the actual pushing of that journal entry. Now, one of the real valuable pieces is the report you get within QuickBooks. Although we noticed that there were some really powerful reports in the Fixed Asset Manager, QuickBooks itself also has some really nice reports. So let me go into reports. I'm going to go into list, and then I'm going to go down to fixed asset listing. There's my two assets, but what's really nice about this is I can click on customize report, and I can actually choose a couple of interesting things here. So I can pick, which is my asset account, and then I can go back. Actually, not the asset account. There's just the regular account that's already here. That's good. Let's see. Let's go down to some of the depreciation related information. There we go. Cost basis, accumulated depreciation, book value, some really interesting pieces here. Sales date. So all these things here are relevant to the fixed asset list. Let me go ahead and click OK. And now we get a report that actually contains accumulated depreciation, cost basis, book value, all by asset. And this only happens when I do that update. Remember when I did QuickBooks, save assets to QuickBooks? When I do that button there, save assets to QuickBooks, that's when QuickBooks is ready to show me a fixed asset list with my depreciation, my book value, my cost, all that extra information. So I hope that you like the fixed asset list, and then you start using the fixed asset list to manage your fixed assets from now on. Now, if you like this type of videos and you find these videos useful, please click like, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you can get updates whenever I do new videos like this, and add some comments below about what type of things you would like to, for type of videos you'd like for me to make, or maybe some questions you may have about QuickBooks or even fixed assets as a whole. So thank you very much for watching. Click like and subscribe. Thank you.